Welcome back to Just a Dude podcast, where we dive into the depths of the everyday, the extraordinary, and everything in between. I'm your host, Nathan, and today we're going to tackle a topic that's more relevant than ever, cybersecurity. But before we begin, if you could like, subscribe, and share, we'd really appreciate it. It's listeners like you that make this show possible. In an age where our lives are increasingly digital, understanding how to protect our virtual selves is not just smart, it's essential. From the basics of password management to the complexities of phishing attacks, we'll explore how you can safeguard your digital identity. We are very fortunate to have a cybersecurity specialist with us today, Dorcas Akintade, correct?
Yes, you are.
So buckle up, grab your favorite tech device, and let's get into the world of cybersecurity. Dorcas is a highly skilled cybersecurity professional. She has a remarkable 24-year career in the technology industry, and throughout her diverse career, Dorcas has successfully navigated various aspects of technology. She's acquired extensive skill sets that span multiple domains. She's attained several certifications, including Network Plus, Security Plus, and Qualified Ethical Hacking. She is a transformation advocate who has mentored aspiring cybersecurity professionals for over 5 years and guides cybersecurity leaders and organizations through her leadership development programs and cybersecurity transformation consulting services. So with that, Dorcas, I would like to welcome you. And please, if you'd like to tell us a little bit more about yourself, we'd love to hear it.
Thank you, Nathan. Like Nathan has rightly said, I'm a cybersecurity professional. I manage a cybersecurity transformation consulting outfit. So most of what we do is working not only with cybersecurity leaders, but also organizations. Usually, people tell me that is an organization that has a revenue between 20 to 100 million. But I say if you're a small to mid-sized organization, may not be making that kind of money right now, but we believe in you and we know we can help you grow to be able to make that kind of amount. So as long as you're a small and medium-sized organization in need of what is called VCSO services, or for a lot of organizations, they cannot afford their own chief information security officer right now. So we are here to help. Our goal is not just to partner with you, it's also to help you grow and unlock the new opportunities within whatever industry in which you have found yourself. A lot of people see cybersecurity as an investment in their business, but our goal and our mission is to ensure that cybersecurity becomes more of what is called a business enabler as well as a business growth tool.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing as a business enabler, meaning, can you expound upon that a little bit, what you mean by business enabler?
Like I said initially, one of the problems and challenges that so many people have when it comes to cybersecurity is they see it as a nice to have instead of a must have. So based off of that, the first question I ask is, what happens if there's a problem? So I allow them to see the challenge or the problems they could potentially have when they don't have the cybersecurity in place. Unfortunately, the reason most of them do not want to pay for the cybersecurity services is because of the few thousands they are probably going to spend or going to invest. It's like I said, it's not an investment. It's more of a growth tool. So if you look at what you're going to put in, you see something as an investment that is going to help you enable your business to be able to attract new clients. One of the challenges I have seen that is occurring recently in the cybersecurity industry is that people don't want to partner with you if you don't have good cybersecurity infrastructures. So if you're able to attract new partners because you have a good cybersecurity strategy or a good cybersecurity infrastructure, your security posture is looking good, why not go with it and attract the big clients? So those are some of the new opportunities we enable them to see. We're also talking about the fact that there are some new growth tools right now that a lot of people are not seeing, like AI. People don't want to use it because they are thinking more of the fact that there are vulnerabilities that it's probably attracts. But are you looking at some of the ways it's going to help you? So those are,
My goodness.
Those are some of the things that we enable our clients and our customers to see. And another challenge I have also seen when it comes to cybersecurity is that we are so focused on the technology aspects. Cybersecurity is not just about the technology. It's about, for me, in our organization, we are focused on three parts: the people, the processes, as well as the technology. Too many people are focused on the technology, and you focus so much and you spend so much on new tools, only to find out that I will call them your resources. Your resources are the ones that are going to create a problem for you because they are not trained, or because you have not invested in them, or probably because your cybersecurity team is a bit shaky, they are not strong enough, or they don't have the right skills. So you need to invest in your people. You need to have a system in place. A lot of organizations do not have the processes and the systems in place when it comes to cybersecurity. So one of the things that we help them to do is look at all these aspects. When we assess them, then we tell them, this is what we can do to help you, and this is how you can use those tools to grow your company.
Excellent, Dorcas. That's amazing, because you're absolutely right. When we think of cybersecurity, we think of the technology behind it, right? But we don't think about the training of the folks to use the technology properly, right? And we don't think about the training of, and I'm sure we might get into this when we talk about phishing and things like that, but training people as well. I'm forgetting it off the top of my head, social engineering, right? Because social engineering involves people. So if we can train our folks, not only just the cybersecurity professionals, but if we could train everybody in the corporation to be more cybersecurity aware, I think that's just going to help any company grow. So we've talked about cybersecurity. Can you kind of give us just a breakdown, real easy, real simple, of what cybersecurity is and, why it's important?
Okay, let me use this analogy. Cybersecurity, let's assume that there's a small town. I'm going to say a small town, or probably a village, and everyone has a home. For every home, consider that home to be what is called a device on the internet. Now, because it's a small village or a small town and everyone knows each other, they don't shut their doors, they don't close their doors, they probably leave their doors ajar. One day, somebody that comes in from afar, a stranger that does not know so much about that town or that village and does not understand the way the people live, and probably has a nefarious intention in mind, probably is a thief, comes in and is looking through the windows. He has not come in yet. He's just looking through the windows. That exactly is how cybersecurity should look like. Those homes that I just told you about, the entire town I just told you about, is the internet. Now, those homes are like computer devices. The person that is coming in is like anyone, or we call them threat actors, anyone with a deadly, I'm going to use the word a deadly intention. If I use a nefarious intention, it comes in because he has, I don't want to use the word hacker right now because he may not necessarily be an hacker, because he's trying to steal information. So at that point in time, that is exactly what cybersecurity is like. Your ability to be able to guard your homes by locking those doors, ensuring that the safes that you put in your homes are actually locked, by ensuring that even when you bolts on your doors, they're actually locked, ensuring that you put guard dogs, you have gates. Those kind of things are those kind of measures is what we refer to as cybersecurity. Your ability to be able to control access to your assets, your digital assets, is what is referred to as cybersecurity.
That is a wonderful analogy that you used there, thinking of the small town or the house, even just looking at the house, right? We know that people can look at the house from the outside and, hey, we're totally fine if they do that, right? But we don't want them getting into the house, because that's where all the special things are stored that are dear to us. And you're right. That's just like, what we have on the internet. So, the town being the internet, right, is what you said. And each individual house being like each one of our devices, right? And we want to make sure that we protect who has access to those and who can see the information that we have within them. And that's where cybersecurity comes in. I think that was a great analogy. I've been in IT for a while and I've not heard that particular analogy, but I loved it. That was a good one because it's so easy for us to relate to. Excellent. So what are some of the common cybersecurity threats that we see today?
Okay, before we start talking about the common threats, what exactly is a threat? We need to look at what exactly a threat is first. If someone comes to your house with a gun, he has not shot you. He's already a threat to you. It's already a threat to your peace. So what is the threat? When we are talking about threats, we're talking about a loophole, a harmful event, or anyone, an entity, an individual, an organization, anything that has the potential to take advantage of a vulnerability that is already in place and can harm your organization's devices or even your personal devices. It can harm your reputation. It can harm your operations. A lot of people think when we are talking about threats, it's probably because there was a breach. Sometimes there's no breach. You don't have downtime. And remember that with every downtime, you're losing money. So that is a threat. So when we are talking about threats, I've classified threats into different aspects. So I'm going to be explaining them one after the other so that we have the better understanding.
Perfect.
The first thing with threats is too many people I need you to understand that these threats, like I said, they are in groups. But the problem is that too many people think of them as the same thing, whereas they are not really the same thing. I'm going to talk about malware. The first threat that is very, very popular is malware. The second one is phishing.
Yes.
Then we also have the insider threats. That is the one that is really rampant in this day and in this age. Then the man-in-the-middle attack, SQL injections, zero-day exploits, as well as credential stuffing. But I think I'll probably choose 2 or 3 of them to talk about because they're the ones that are very, very popular and common. Now, when we are talking about malware, too many people see malware as, use the word malware. It means malicious ware. It means something that is malicious. It does not have good intentions. Unfortunately, so many times we are the ones that specifically attract this malware to ourselves. Why do I say that? A lot of people see adwares, we call them adware or spyware, on the internet. And then because they are saying, get a freebie in, then you click it.
Yep, exactly. And we always get us with that free thing, right? You sit there and you're like, oh, well, hey, free, I'll click on it.
Exactly. So there is nothing free. This is actually an adware. That is that was
nothing, Dorcas. Nothing is free in this world. I think we've found that out. But there's usually something attached.
There's something attached. But the truth of the matter is that a lot of these so-called adwares are spywares. So most of the time, when you end up downloading the spyware, then it starts to look at the things that you are doing or is monitoring the activities that is going on your system. Unfortunately, for some time, some of them actually have what is referred to as keyloggers. Now, the thing with these keyloggers is that, let me give you an example. You probably put in 1922 on, and it's already, it's a spyware, like I said. It has looked at the website that you went into. Then you probably put in your password. He has a keylogger, so he knows what you put in. Then they go use that somewhere else. Nobody came in. You were the one that attracted it into your home. Your computer is your home. You attracted it by clicking on the wrong thing.
And so essentially, with that, we just gave them access to our front door, right?
In fact, you did not give them access to your front door. You gave them access to the entire house.
To everything. So every single lock, window, everything.
Believe me, at that point in time, you no longer have there are some thieves that they're probably spying through the door. But this one, you actually pulled them in. You actually pulled the stranger into your home and gave him a seat to sit down. And after giving him a seat to sit down, you actually served him food and drinks.
Yep.
That is actually what the hardware is. You went all the way. Because at that point in time, you've given them everything, not only spyware. At that point, like I always say, especially when it comes to the seasonal periods, that you start seeing, oh, come to this place, they are doing this, there is this, get the free stuff. Nothing is free. If it is going to be free, the organization itself will send it to you.
Exactly.
Itself will give it to you if you go there. Not sending it to your phone. Any message that you have not signed up for that comes to your phone is probably malicious. Now, if you go to a Burlington, for example, I know a place like Burlington has like loyalty programs and loyalty rewards. If you went there and you signed up for their loyalty rewards program, then you get a text message from them. You signed up for it. So you are the one that went all the way. But if you did not sign up for it, let me use another popular one, Nike. You didn't go to Nike to sign up for anything, and then Nike is sending you a message all the way. You should be suspicious. How did this come in? I'm not saying some phone providers are not selling out information. They're not selling out phone numbers and stuff. But that's not the way it usually works. If it has a click, think before you actually click. That's the word. Think before you click. Never click. For me, one of the things I have also learned is that if there is a link, I would rather go and type out the link myself rather than click the link. So it's better to be safe than sorry. I'm going to keep going back into all the malware right now, into the more popular. The reason I talked about the spyware first, that is the most popular one that everybody is working with. At the end of the day, they come back and tell you, oh, my number was who attracted the thief in the first place. Right. Now, the next one I'm going to be talking about is actually a virus. And the thing with viruses is that they are self-replicating programs. So it's very interesting because just look at a virus like when we had COVID. The way COVID came in, they told us that it was infectious because when somebody sneezes, then there's droplets and then it comes in. Look at a virus that way as well. That's the thing with viruses. Actually, a lot of viruses, but I'm not going to go into all of that. There are several types. But the reason we're talking about viruses is the fact that they're self-replicating. So because they're self-replicating, once it comes in, like I said, it's like COVID. Once
it just spreads.
One person has it, if it's able to attach itself to one file, all he has to do is keep replicating itself. Then it keeps having babies. And the truth is that they replicate at an extremely fast rate. In fact, they are worse than mice. Have you ever had seen mice before and the way they replicate?
Yes.
Worse than mice. Because you see a mice today, and then in 2 days, he probably has 4 or 5 babies. But with virus, you probably see it in 1 second, and in like 2 seconds, he already has about 20,000 more. And you're wondering what happened.
Yeah, that's crazy.
The thing with these things is the fact that when this virus comes into your system, the way that you can actually know that you already have a virus on your system is that most of the time, the system is always very slow. The system is, in fact, the very first suspicion that you have a virus on your system is that it is going to be relatively slow. And why is that? That is because the processor speed that is supposed to be used by just one, I don't want to use the word operating system because it may not be an operating system.
Sure.
Several bodies are using it. It's like a mother and a child. So if a mother is pregnant and she's going to give birth to 3 kids, you'll be as shocked at the alarming rate at which she keeps eating because she's eating for 4 people. But if she has only 1 child, she's going to tell you when she's tired. Sometimes she may not necessarily even be hungry. Even when she wants to eat, she's still going to eat minimally, probably because she's eating for herself and the other child. But this is exactly the same way it's working on the system. Too many processes are running at the same time. So don't blame your computer for being slow. That computer was made for just one file to run. Now there are 20 other attachments working with it. Now the second thing I want you to also know is worms. Just like viruses, they also replicate. But the truth about them is that compared to a virus, viruses do not just replicate. Virus need what is called human intervention. You have to either click a file or do something for the virus to spread. But with a worm, once it enters into that system, it has made it a home. It's totally the home. Without human intervention, it just keeps spreading. Unfortunately, because it's spreading, it does not only spread onto your own network, then it starts spreading across the entire network. It starts spreading. If you send a file, if you send an email, everyone that opens that email on their own system
will get the worm.
We get the worm. Wow. At this point in time, I won't call it a worm. We'll get that malware.
Mm-hmm. Which then...
Yes. Now, let's look at Trojan Horses. Now, the thing with Trojan Horses is the fact that this one also comes like you are inviting a thief into your home because a lot of times they come as legitimate software that you actually download on the internet. So one of the things I tell people is that when you have to download a software on the internet, especially because it's a plug and play kind of tool, go directly to the manufacturer's website. There are some additional websites that you end up going to, not understanding that you are actually downloading a Trojan horse.
Gotcha. So these websites are almost disguising themselves as like the true software company, or as a service to download software, whereas opposed to, say you wanted to do a download of Microsoft 365. you could type in, Microsoft 365 in your web browser, and it may give you something other than Microsoft as the first hit.
Exactly.
And so you might not be paying attention, click on that, it says download here. You think you're getting Microsoft 365, but in reality, you're not. Or you might get it, but it will have a worm or a Trojan horse attached.
It will have an attachment to it. But the truth of the matter is that a lot of times, that is not even a Trojan worm. If it has an attachment, it's going to probably be a worm or a virus.
Gotcha.
So if it's a Trojan horse, it's coming as a legitimate software. But because you are downloading it from a source that is not trusted. I think some of the ones that actually have that do that is audio tools. A lot of people are looking, don't let me even go that way. A lot of people are looking for free software. So I advise, if you're going to go spend $20 in Best Buy, to just buy that tool, please do. Because sometimes if you go online, at the end of the day, you might be downloading something that is going to bring you a problem. And a lot of people don't see it that way because they think just the fact that they have access to that tool, they have access to be able to use that particular software, they are good. But are you really good? What is it stealing from you? Because once you start looking at financial transactions on your computer, then your money starts moving out and you think the bank is stealing your money. The bank is not stealing your money. You invited a thief into your computer in the first place. So then the last one I'm going to be talking about is social engineering. That's a very, very popular one. The way social engineering actually works is that the attackers will try to trick you into giving out sensitive information that they can use for their own purpose, such as social security numbers, policy numbers, date of birth. Let me see another one that is very popular. I don't even think age, but a lot of times it's usually bank account information. It's usually financial information that people are tricked into clicking. Sometimes they will just send you that information and then you click on it. Then instead of taking you to your bank, it takes you to another place. Then you end up putting out the information you should not be putting out. Then you get into a problem. So what are some of the things that you should actually be doing in this situation to help yourself? The first thing is caution. Caution. Be very careful. Not everything downloadable should be downloaded. Not every website should be visited. Most of the sites that have these problems are usually pornographic sites, gambling sites, the free tools. They are the ones that usually come with all this kind of malware. Sometimes they are genuine sites, let me use that word. But the truth of the matter is there's a way they also want to make money. So they have some other attachments with them that are not legitimate because it's also their own additional way of making money. But most of the things that they do is that they exploit vulnerabilities, like I already explained. And the one that they do that actually is very, very annoying is data theft. I keep talking about the data theft. They disrupt network, your network. I have had an incident with, I'll call it a malware, that it stopped the internet from working. And they all felt the internet had a problem for days. But, we decided to try the internet on another device, only to find out the internet was working. There was no problem with it. After we had called the ISP several times before we discovered that it was actually that device that had a problem. So a lot of times they can have what is called network disruption and the most painful financial loss.
Excuse me.
The most painful. So many people are... They are deceived. They are deceived to give out their financial information to scrupulous individuals. Then they come like, oh no, but nobody asked me for this. Nobody came to me for this. I didn't give this information. Like I said, phishing is different from malware. With malware, they don't have to ask you questions. They already have probably a keylogger on your device. So they're just extracting the information. Remember, they have another device on their own section because they're already monitoring what you are doing. So financial loss is the part that is usually most painful for individuals, for corporate organizations. If for individuals, at least sometimes it can just be like thousands. But for corporate organizations, sometimes it can be like millions.
Yeah.
You need to be very, very sensitive and careful with what your staff is downloading. I'm talking about this with corporate organizations right now. In fact, one of the things I always advise for most of my clients is we don't allow the staff to download their own or have access to be able to put down any downloads. or be able to install software on their own. No. We have to push it out, yes, from the technical support team, because that is the only way to keep everyone safe. And like I said, virus, once it attacks one person, it starts eating. It's like the worm. Once it eats into one person. I don't know if you've ever seen some worms that eat into the body. When it starts eating into a particular vein, then it starts eating into some of the organs. Mm-hmm. That exactly is the way that a virus operates. Once it's able to eat into one thing, then it starts eating into every other thing. And
so not only can that virus get your information, right, and attack your network, cause maybe no access to the internet because it's using it or whatever, but it could technically kill your device, right? Depending on what
if it kills the device, it's better.
Well, right, because now they can't get any more info.
Yes, and it's better for it to kill the device, because if the device stops working, then they no longer have access. But the truth of the matter is, there was a time that they used to make sure that it killed the device. But right now, they're not interested in killing your device. They're not interested in getting the information.
Right, because the less you know about it, right, the more opportunity they have to steal additional information, additional data.
It's so bad. There are some ones right now, you cannot even reboot your system. It's that bad. There are some viruses, it will not even allow you to shut down. You cannot even reboot.
Wow. That's amazing. And that's a huge thing that we need to, probably tell our listeners here is that, we've got to be extremely careful when we're downloading information off of the internet. Go to reputable sites, like go to Microsoft itself if you're going to download a Microsoft program. And just so everybody is aware, we're not sponsored by any program. We're just using these as an example, of tools that we could go to. But you want to go to the source site, right? If you're going to download something off the internet, you want to make sure it's a legitimate source. You want to do your research. You don't want to click on any links given to you from an email, because even though it might say Microsoft.com, right, that could possibly be spoofed to where it actually sends you to another location as well, exactly. Right, Dorcas? Yeah.
The truth of the matter is, it will never say Microsoft.com. That's another thing people need to be very careful about. But I'm going to be talking about that when we're talking about phishing.
Okay.
You have to be, let me talk about phishing now. On a website, we talked about spoofing now. When you're on a website, you need to be very careful about what exactly the website is saying. It's probably going to say micro, and the O will be a 0 instead of an O.
So just the smallest little difference that you really have to pay attention to.
Exactly. And then it spoofs you to another website that it's not the original website of the manufacturer. So the thing with phishing is that it is a type of social engineering attack that actually makes you divulge sensitive information. It's actually, I don't want to use the word encourage, because it's not encouraging you. It's deceiving you. It's deceiving you into divulging sensitive information, such as passwords, your credit card details, personal information, personal data. I think one of the most important tools they use right now is date of birth. That's the reason they usually do that, is because it enables them to get the social security number. So a lot of times, this is actually achieved through, emails. The popular phishing, when we are talking about phishing, the most popular one right now is email phishing. That's the one everyone knows about. Mm-hmm. But we are in a space right now where phishing has become extreme. So when we are talking about phishing, be very sensitive. Look for grammatical errors. Look for the way that the message is crafted. But the funny thing now, with AI, no grammatical errors.
Yeah.
No typographical
right.
errors. And it actually has the tone of the sender. It's easy for me to just look for AI right now and say, look for Nathan Bowman and write the way exactly. So you just have to see what the person is saying. One of the ways that I have learned that is extremely important to be able to pinpoint whether it's a phishing email, you need to be very, very careful and trust your instincts. Mm-hmm. Apart from trusting your instincts, what I advise for organizations to do, and that is one of the things I keep hammering to my clients, that's one of the things we enforce. We have what we call security awareness programs. Every month, every quarter, we ensure that they actually have security awareness programs, because it's never too much when people keep hearing the same thing over and over and over. One of my coaches will say that immersion brings conversion. The more they hear it, the more they will always remember. Once he wants to click that link, he's going to remember, oh, I was told. Then he probably picks his phone and calls the person. Then the second one, when we're talking about phishing, I've talked about the email phishing. There's smishing. Smishing works in the same way as spywares and hardwares. Click this now to win 500,000. They probably send you like an SMS that links to a website or a place or a link that is probably going to be stealing all information from you. Then Vishing. Vishing is voice. That's usually done through the voice. The interesting thing done with the voice is that a lot of the people that are doing this, when we say voice right now, I'm talking of phone calls. You will probably be getting some very interesting phone calls now. Like someone telling you, I'm calling from the IRS. You have to give me this information. Or I'm calling from just one very funny organization. And then out of panic, you start running around and you start giving them information that they don't need. So you have to be very sensitive. Another thing when it comes to vishing, I think when we get to the AI part, I'm going to talk about that.
Okay.
Is the fact that a lot of voice cloning is coming in right now, and people are forced to do what they should not be doing or take the wrong step that they should not be taking.
Right.
Because
And like
my voice is a clone that is made to sound like the original person.
Right. So for an example, someone could, because, I'm a podcaster and we're out here on the internet, someone could find some of my podcasts, train an AI model on my voice, and then they could maliciously contact somebody using my voice, right? But it's not actually me saying anything. So you could be, if you were to call my wife and use my voice, I'm pretty sure she would probably think it was me. But yeah, we have to be careful of those. And I think some of this with the phishing, vishing, and all that comes up too, Dorcas, is we have to think about common sense, right?
It's not just common sense. You need to understand that if somebody is going to be vishing you, they're not going to use the number that they know that you know the number, which in essence means they probably be calling from another number.
Yep, which should be clue number one.
Yes, like she's one of my big moms, and she traveled because her husband died, and she traveled out of the country. Someone called me and said she was in problem. It was like somebody that buried her husband yesterday, only to be told that she had a problem today. All of us almost believed it because it was something that was very true, which meant it was somebody that was close to her. But the reason I was able to detect that it was probably not her is because of the number that was used to call me. So I picked my phone and I called her on the number that I know. And she answered strangely, like, what are you talking about? I'm fine. She just buried her husband yesterday. She's good.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying in essence is always have a second opinion. When it comes to snitching and vishing, phishing, even when you get an email, phishing, pick up your phone and call the person on a secondary device. If it's in the office and somebody is telling you to do something, pick up your phone and call. If it is within the same office premises, walk up to that person's desk and ask questions.
Yep, and exactly. And that's kind of where I was going with the common sense thing. Maybe not common sense isn't a good idea for the word, but using logical sense, right? Like, for example, if you get an email from the CEO of your company and your CEO never usually emails you, that should be a hint, right? That maybe this is a phishing email.
Yes, that is a hint, but in some instances, it may not.
Sure. No, exactly. But, some of the things where if they were going to say for me, hey, Nathan, this is the CEO of your company and I need you to click this link, or I need you to send me your login info, whatever it may be. Those are the types of things where you should say, first of all, we should, with people like yourself, Dorcas, that we should have in our organizations a good sense of cybersecurity and what it is, the threats and training. But on top of that as well, we should also know what is normal in a normal daily activity for ourselves. And something like that would not be part of our normal day, if that makes sense.
That is not part of your normal day. But if that happens, you see, the reason why phishing attacks usually succeed is because there's no escalation procedure in most of these organizations. So one of the things I always advise for our clients to do is have an escalation process. If I know I can forward that email to a particular email address, they can call me back to let me know if it is a real email or if it is actually a phishing email. So
That's
if
that's
I
excellent.
actually have the ability to, let me use the word, report it to someone else,
Sure.
someone like a superior.
And in these cases, we would rather, from yourself being a cybersecurity professional, you would rather have people send you more of those emails to check out than just taking it for granted, right?
Believe me, I want to get 1 million of that. And click the email.
Yeah, exactly. I'm pretty sure that if we, an ounce of prevention is worth, I forget what the saying is, but an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So it's definitely something, and I'm glad to hear you say that we can, for those companies and organizations that have that ability to escalate, when in doubt, escalate it.
See, the truth of the matter is, I even tell them when you're not even in doubt, you're just uncomfortable. Another thing I've also come to understand is that sometimes threats, I think we're still talking about that. Insider threats sometimes can be a problem.
And can you give us, for our listeners, can you explain a little bit what an insider threat would be?
Let me talk about insider threats. Sure. I'm still talking about phishing, but let me talk about insider threats. The interesting thing with insider threats is that it's divided into two. There is what is called the malicious insider, and there is a negligent insider. Now, the malicious insider is usually a disgruntled employee. A lot of times, I do advise my clients to have procedures, or what is called the process. So many of them don't have processes in place, and that is why they have problems. If someone decides to resign from your organization, deactivate their access within 24 hours. But if someone is disgruntled and was fired, deactivate access immediately. Deactivate access. Don't think about it. In fact, before they are walking out of that door, ensure that access is removed. The reason is because a lot of times, some other staff members may not know they've been fired. They may still have access, and then they are going to do something that is malicious and cause a problem. A lot of times, because for whatever reason they might have been fired. Mm-hmm. I don't know why they may have been fired, but for whatever reason they may have been fired, it can end up causing a problem on the long run.
Yes.
So it's better for you to just totally deactivate access so they no longer have access to your organization's network. Whatever they decide to do outside of that is none of your business, as long as they don't have access to your organization's network.
Exactly.
Now, the second insider threat is the negligent one. Usually, they do something they should not be doing. Probably someone that left a sensitive document on a table. Mm-hmm. Someone that left their computer unlocked and went to the bathroom, and then somebody else decides to use it. Those are the negligent insiders. The way we control that is through a continuous education. Inform them. Then policies and procedures, put them in place. A policy like, if you have to stand up from your desk, make sure your system is locked. It helps them to know that they have to follow the company's policy and procedure. Putting a policy in place that says if somebody is not using their computer for like 5 to 15 minutes, lock it up automatically. Those are the kind of policies you want to put in place to ensure that there is no negligent insider threats coming up.
Yeah, so for like that, you're talking more like anytime you leave the desk, you want to lock your computer. Things like a clear desk policy, yes, right? Where you want to keep sensitive documents off, make sure they're locked up if you do have to print them out. I think that brings up another thing with those insider threats too, is I'm finding more and more as I get, a little bit older in this IT realm, that don't print it unless you absolutely need to. Right? Just leave it on the computer where you can lock it and store it up. Whereas if you have printed documents on your desk, that's another way for people to get access to it. It just adds one more modality, right?
One of the ways that I think the policies, like I said, the process is extremely important. Mm-hmm. For me, one of the things I usually tell the clients is the fact that if there are some files, I'm going to use the word files, hardware, I'm talking of hard files, hard copies right now, the staff needs to sign for it before taking it out. So once they sign for it, they have a minimum number of hours or a certain number of period they are allowed to use it. So because there's a certain amount of time they're allowed to use it, they are very cautious and they work with it extremely fast. And then they have to take it back and sign it back in. So based off of that, if you signed for, let me share an incident with you. There was a time I went to Aid to buy a lighter. A lighter. I wanted to use the lighter, and then they told me I needed to sign up with my ID. In fact, I signed with my ID to buy that lighter. That lighter was my baby. I did not allow anyone to borrow that lighter. So the thing went out. I totally kept it. In fact, by the time the gas in it was finished, I buried it. I didn't throw it away. But do you know why I did that? That is because it had access. It had my information attached to it. If any problem had come up, then I would have been accused of arson. So that's one of the reasons why we encourage signing for these things. If you're signing for some of these things, I promise they'll keep them safe and they will work with it extremely fast without thinking about it. People feel responsible for the things they have signed up for. They feel responsible for whatever things that is in their custody. When you are giving things to a department, for example, another thing I usually teach my clients is we don't allow our staff our clients to use any form of downloads or anything. No, we don't allow that. So
I think that's a great idea. I mean,
yes.
Especially from an organization standpoint, really you should be controlling all the downloads and programs that your people need. And if they need a new program, they should be requesting it from the company or the organization to have it downloaded. And
Exactly.
that's really, yes, that's a great idea.
And apart from that, we don't allow them to download information. So you cannot bring a USB into the company or bring a device. In fact, it will not work. All USB ports are totally
just
deactivated.
Turned off. Yep.
They are not just turned off, deactivated. You cannot use it. So one of the things that we have decided to do, because we found out there are some organizations that their staff members need the devices. So based off of the fact that they need those devices, do you know what we decided to do? What we decided to do is that we go to their managers, we issue a fixed compliance device. To each department, just one to each department, it goes to the manager. So because it goes to the manager decides who is getting the custody of that device. The device is owned by the organization. So you cannot even use it. Those are the only devices that will work. So once you plug them into your systems, that is the only way they can work. And because you are signing for it, you cannot just go to your manager and say, Miss A, if Miss A is using it and Miss B wants to download the same thing, the manager will remind you that Miss A already has it and is downloading the same thing. So why do you need it? So in that kind of situation, what do? What we do is get them to sign. So if they are signing, believe me, all of them are very, very careful. And one of the things I have observed since they started implemented that process, one of the things I observed is that the longest time that any of the employees has ever had that was about 3 hours.
Wow.
In less than 30 minutes, 1 hour, they finish whatever they wanted to do and then return it. Because they don't want to be in the possession of that device. It is signed to their name.
So that's so smart. Yeah. Because it's just like like you said in your example of, going to Rite Aid for that lighter, it was under your name. You had to give your ID for it, right? You had to sign up for it. So it is in your name. You don't want that lighter, in that case, going to someone and them using it. And somehow, Lord forbid, they do something bad with it. And then it comes back to you. Yep.
Well, if you lose it at that point in time that it is in your custody, remember that your name is attached to it. So that is one of the reasons. So they keep that thing like an egg, like a baby. They probably don't want to leave the office without turning it back in. So they become very responsible. Another thing I have also observed is that when they have that device, when they have the hard disk with them, they don't download unnecessary things because they know that the event analyzer is going to say, this happened during this time.
Yep.
That thing was with you. So what did you download?
Exactly. What are you doing? What are you doing outside of what you should be doing?
Exactly. So like I said, it puts in a lot of controls. Some of these controls can be stringent. But those are the policies, those are the procedures that keeps even the organization sane. Those are the things that is helping to make sure that there's no data exfiltration. That is what is ensuring that information is not stolen, trade secrets are kept secret.
Yep, that's excellent. So with those in mind, what are some things that we could probably do? And I know, and I want to do this from both points of view. What are some steps? And I think you've already told us quite a few steps from the organizational standpoint, like checking things out, not letting them download variously. But what are some things from the organizational level that we can do to protect ourselves? And then maybe even as individuals, like as Dorcas and Nathan, our personal laptops that we might have. What are some things we could do to protect ourselves?
Now, I'm going to talk on the personal device right now because not all. I'm going to talk on the personal notes, then the organizational notes.
Okay, perfect.
One of the things I have come to realize, especially if you are somebody that is working remotely, you're working from home, the internet that you're using is extremely important. The internet device, your router is extremely important. So I usually advise that you use a router that has what is called a dual band or tri-band capacity. What does that mean? That means you can give it 2 or 3 names at the same time on the same internet. Now, what that means is that because you want your organization to be secure, you want your company to be secure, you want your job to be secure, look for one of that is dedicated exclusively to you and is not used by every other person in the house.
That makes sense.
So the reason I'm saying that is whatever kind of security you're going to be putting on that has to be at the highest level. Use a WPA3 if possible. That is if he has one. If he does not have one, you can use a WPA2. Most routers right now will allow you to do a WPA2, but I've discovered that most of the new routers that are coming up usually have a WPA3. At that point in time, is keeping this information or data that is flowing out of your network, is making it to be not necessarily encrypted, but it's safer. So because it's safer, the only people that will probably have access to your network at that point in time will probably be your ISP and the organization that you're working for. And that is what you want.
And that makes sense. And the reason you're separating that from, say, your normal home Wi-Fi, right, that maybe your kids get their iPads on or whatever it is so that the access to that network, so your home network for your kids and everything is fine, but you're kind of dividing up a separate, I don't want to say separate network, but separate access point for your work computer.
Exactly.
Right? Did I say that correctly?
Yes, you did. Okay. And the other thing you need to put into consideration is that anybody that is seeing it from outside, we see it as 3 or 2 internet points. So dependent on which one that you are using, most likely they may not be able to penetrate into that one because the security on that is more enhanced compared to the other ones. So even if they are able to penetrate into the network in your home, it's going to be hard to be able to penetrate into that one. And you want it to be more secure. Now, another thing is, this has nothing to do with security anyway, but it's actually faster because you are the only one on that source. You are the only one on that point. So it's usually very faster. And one of the things I have discovered is that when network is transmitting at a faster rate, it's a bit difficult to intercept fast. I'm not saying you are not unable to intercept it, but it's moving so fast, you can't intercept it as fast as something that is moving at a regular rate.
That makes sense.
Yes. So that's one of the reasons why I always advise that you do that. But it has nothing to do with the speed. It has more to do with security parts. Then the second thing, nothing is free.
Right.
So when you are going to, I tell everyone, not just my clients, everyone, this is for everybody. Don't use free Wi-Fi, free public Wi-Fi. Now, what am I saying when I say don't use free public Wi-Fi? Hotels, airports, coffee shops, clubs, anywhere. But the truth of the matter is that there are some times you don't have a choice but to use it. So in such a situation, I will advise that you get what's called a VPN. So that way, you're actually safer and you can actually use it.
Yeah, can you explain for our listeners a little bit what a VPN is?
A VPN is a virtual private network. Now, let me explain the way it will work. Mm-hmm. Let's look at the way, look at yourself passing through a train. Mm-hmm. You see, sometimes when you see a train, it's passing through a tunnel. And when it's passing through that tunnel, it does not see the sky. A lot of times, be very observant. if you're passing through a tunnel, even if it is on your car, a lot of times you don't have the network. I don't know if you've ever experienced
Sure.
that. You probably went into like an underground parking lot, and then you find out that your GPS is not working because it cannot locate the network. Exactly. At that point in time, you are like, the way the VPN makes you go through is like you're passing through a tunnel. It keeps you safe. So because you're passing through a tunnel at that point in time, it has changed your IP address. This is how I explain IP addresses to people. There's something that is called the digital trail on the internet, and this is how I explain it. I say, when you see a small child that has put his feet in muddy waters, after putting the feet in muddy waters, then he decides he wants to go and play a game of hide and seek. Then his mates will catch him in like 2 seconds because they've already seen the tracks. The internet is muddy waters. Everything that you do on the net has a trail. So if you want to hide some of your trails, the best thing to do is to ensure that you use a VPN. One of the trails that is easy to detect on the internet is your IP address. Let me explain the way the IP address tool would work again. It's like you send a package from Amazon. You bought a package from Amazon. When you buy a package from Amazon, Amazon needs to know where they're going to deliver the package to. That is why they're asking for your mailing address. If they don't have the mailing address, they are unable to deliver the package. That is exactly the same way the IP address would work. Your IP address is telling the device or the data, this data that is coming in to this place. Where are you going to? What address are you coming to? That is the address that it is coming to. So if it does not find the IP address, it's coming from a certain address and going to another address. So if it's unable to detect the address it is going to, how is it supposed to arrive at that destination? The package goes back. If Amazon cannot detect your location, they take the package back to wherever their delivery hub is. That exactly is the same way an IP address is. So a lot of times with the VPN, it's giving you what I would call it a temporary IP address that is not really your address, just so that data can locate you. But if they try to use it at that time, it's a virtual address.
Gotcha.
Once you finish using it, it changes it to another address that is never located anymore. So even if they try to hack into that IP address, it's no longer existent.
It's going to be gone.
It's going to be gone because it is not really a true address. It was actually that one time. It's a one-time thing. So it is not a real IP address. It's a virtual IP. So virtual IPs at that point in time, they're just temporary sources. It's like getting a virtual card number from your...
Oh, yeah, from your... Yeah, like your credit card.
It's hard to hack a virtual card number because it is non-existent.
Yep.
Exactly. So that makes sense. That is exactly the way the VPN will turn it into something that you are the only person that is focused on using it. And it adds your privacy. It gives you that privacy at that point in time that no other person has access to except for you. Now, we always talk about passwords. Yes, passwords are great. Passwords are good. Passwords are amazing. But I prefer what is called a passphrase.
Can you tell us? Yeah.
Easily detectable. Yes. Passwords are easily detectable because with a dictionary attack or a brute force attack, if I decide to use a dictionary attack, everything, that's why I tell people, don't use words that are easily detected by the dictionary. Don't use your kids' birthday information or their names or the name of your dog, the name of your street. Don't use what's easy to detect names or words. Don't use that. So prefer to use something like, I am going to the market as a password. Then I probably change some of the numbers,
Sure.
some of
the letters with numbers,
some of the letters into either numbers or figures. At the end of the day, it totally changes it, and it is not easy to detect. We're thinking about the fact that I am going to the market is what my password is.
Yeah, and with using a passphrase like that, I mean, that's going to hit most of the requirements that we have nowadays for a password, right? With your so many characters, special characters, things like that.
Complexity. But the truth of the matter is that even with the password complexities, believe me, when it comes to brute force, it can still be hacked. It can still be hacked because a lot of people are not very creative.
Sure.
Creative when it comes
to... And they
to
reuse the same password for everything, right? And that's one thing we don't want to do either.
Believe me, that is something you never want to do because once one of the websites is hacked, then
You're done.
you're done.
Yeah, absolutely.
The thing I always encourage, especially for people that are using mobile devices, is use an MFA. Use an MFA. Use a multi-factor authentication. But another thing I do tell people is that even when you are using a multi-factor authentication, never use the multi-factor authentication on the device that you are using the mobile app.
Okay. So can you go into a little bit more?
For example, if I'm going to be using a multi-factor authentication, one of the multi-factor authentications I know a lot of people do use, and is the most popular one, is the OTP, the one-time password. They get a password on their phone. Why don't you just use an authenticator app? The authenticator app is more secure. The authenticator app will probably, one of the things I have even discovered that authenticator apps do right now is that they will still send a text message to your phone, especially when it comes to financial transactions.
Mm-hmm.
So use a authenticator app, but at the same time, ensure that the device that you are using is not the same device that you are using the mobile app on. Then one thing I also advise people to do is always check the permissions that your apps have. It's constant. You see, a lot of times we are not sensitive to some of these things, and some things are just automatic. Put off your location if you are not using it. You know how people try to find out where you are, especially when it comes to an hacker. I saw something very interesting like 2 or 3 days ago. There was a guy that used the POS that was a tap pay, and then he knew that this guy put his wallet in
his back pocket.
In his back pocket, and he was able to take out money from that guy's just using that POS.
Just from like tapping the wallet, or getting close to it?
Just tapping the wallet. And then the interesting thing, he didn't take out the guy's card. He didn't steal out the wallet.
Yeah.
Just put it there.
And it's the same technology that we use to tap when we pay, right? And that's the same technology they're using to steal it.
But you know, if the guy had an multi-factor authentication, that would not have happened.
Sure. That's a great point, because if they did steal it and you had your MFA, then, you'd still be good because you can say, nope, that's not me.
So those are some of the things I usually do tell people to do. And the most important one, yes, I don't know why I forgot this one. Wow.
There's a lot of stuff to go through.
On the internet.
Yes.
Be careful what you post. Some people's information is stolen from the net because they know their children's names, they know their children's birthdays, they know when they traveled, they know where they are traveling to, they eventually have all the information of your life. So it's so easy.
And that's one thing that I've told people for years. And in my past, I used to be a police officer, and I would tell everybody, and I still tell them this to today, is like, if you're going to go on a vacation or if you're going on a trip somewhere and you want to share pictures and stories about it, wait until after you get home, and don't let anybody know about it until afterwards. Because we don't want people, number one, to know that you're out of town, because if they know where you live, right now it's easier access to your house if they really want it to. And then two, like you said, it gives them information that they could use for, other purposes, malicious purposes, like you would say. So that was a great point.
Now, the one that is also very, very important, one mistake that I find a lot of organizations make right now is not having a backup. In fact, it's two. Number one, they don't have a backup cadence. And when they don't have a backup cadence, that means they're not backing up their systems regularly. That is why there's a ransomware attack. You know, there are some people that actually have ransomware attacks and we never hear about it.
Yeah, because they're able to have a backup cadence. They have the backup. Exactly. They're able to pull from the backup and really lose no business.
They lock the threat actors out, restore, and everything is all good. Another thing is the patching cadence as well. A lot of organizations at the same time don't have a patching cadence. There's a reason that update was sent.
Exactly. There's a reason they made them.
There's a reason. A lot of times people don't understand that the reason your iOS was sent in the first place is to fix the bugs that they detected. So in order to avoid things like the zero-day exploits, or even in some instances, some known exploits, they sent a backup, a patching update. By sending an update, the people refuse. In fact, I was so shocked one time, and I think at that point in time, iOS was at iOS 17 point something, and this lady still had 14. It was so interesting.
Yeah. And it's, that's one of the things too, is that sometimes, and you were speaking iOS, and I just thought about this off the top of my head, but if you have an older, application or an older, hardware tool, we'll just call it an iPad, right? Say you have an iPad that's like a second or third generation. at some point they're going to stop supporting that. And you're not going to get your updates anymore. And that makes that device vulnerable, doesn't it?
That is going to be more than vulnerable, because then a lot of apps stop working, because some apps don't work with the old, or in my case, we call it legacy. One of the things I tell people is that the reason why a lot of health organizations are actually having problems right now is because they use legacy systems. So based off of the fact that they're using legacy systems, the new software, the new apps cannot work on them. So if they cannot work on them, then they'll say, oh, this thing is not working. Whereas that was a system that was used in before my parents were born. You know?
Exactly. Yep.
It was not updated.
I hate to say it, but I've worked with companies that have worked with software that is so outdated that they actually had to build other tools to get it to continue to work. And that's not ideal. Yeah, just get the new software, get it with the most up-to-date stuff. I realize there's a cost with that, but in the end, if you're dealing with an out-of-date system that's going to have huge vulnerabilities and you have a data breach, it's going to cost you way more for that breach than it is to upgrade the system.
I think one of the mistakes that people don't put into consideration is that when you get a breach, it costs you more.
So much.
I was actually taking a look at something for a friend about 3 weeks ago, and I discovered that, do you know, to get a data breach coach when you have a breach, the minimum amount you pay is $30,000 for 1 day?
Wow. That's
for 1 day.
And we're talking for an organization there, but 30 grand, it doesn't matter if you're an organization of 3 or an organization of 1,000, 30 grand's a lot of money for 1 day.
That is just for 1 day.
Most day.
Most data breach coaches use about 2 weeks, 14 days.
Wow.
And they charge per day. If you pay somebody $30,000 per day, multiply that by 14.
Yep.
That is outside of the lack of peace of mind that everybody has during that period. Outside of the fact that you're still going to be fined if you're supposed to be compliant. I look at some of these things, and that was one of the reasons why I said cybersecurity should be an investment and not should be a growth tool and not an investment.
Exactly.
Because you avoid some of these things, your reputation ends up having a problem.
And you can't rebuild that.
I was doing a research about last week or 2 weeks ago, and I discovered that a lot of companies, after a data breach, they usually have about 60% turnover rate.
Wow.
Because people don't feel safe anymore at that point in time. They don't know they're going to lose their jobs. Sure. They don't know what is going to happen with that organization. So they start looking for other jobs.
Yep. And, this kind of reminds me of a breach, I believe, that happened last March with a healthcare exchange company.
Yes.
Called Change Healthcare. And I think they were into so much stuff with pharmacy, medical benefits, claims processing, things like that when they were breached, that I don't know that they will ever be able to come back from that, because their reputation, has been just tattered,
It's going to be very hard, because a lot of HMOs were dependent on them. A lot of pharmacies were dependent on that. In fact, I don't know how they're going to overcome that.
Yeah, that's
company that I feel very sorry for right now is AT&T.
Yes, with the telecoms hacking.
Yes, because they had 2 breaches in less than 6 months. And that is actually getting a lot of organizations, people not to trust in them anymore.
And you know what? And that, I think with the AT&T one, they even hacked an older technology, right? Because I think the systems that they were able to get into were older ones that AT&T was still operating to help run the telecom system. But that, again, is another thing where, maybe they should have thought of updating that system to help alleviate some of those vulnerabilities.
So my question is, why are they not updating the systems? A lot of times it's because of the processes. That's one of the things I was saying about the processes and the technology. 99% of the time, it's not just the process and the technology, it's the people. Now, when I'm saying the people, I won't blame some of them. It is because they do not have the required skills to help them run. Now, for some of my leadership development programs, one of the things I have learned to do is help. That's one of the reasons why we ensure that even when we are working with the corporate organizations, because we work with corporates, we work with individuals. Some of these individuals want to climb up the ladder, so they prefer to come pay on their own without depending on the organizations. So they want to know the new trends, they want to know what is going on, and then be able to, help help themselves. But one of the things I always ensure that I tell them and I emphasize on, with every new technology that comes in, don't tell me I don't know. You have to learn how to use it. Even if you don't know so much about it, just get some understanding, because that is the only way you can move forward in your career. If they tell you something is coming up, you need to understand why something is working. Because if you don't know how something is working, how are you supposed to manage it? Let me use that word.
Exactly.
Manage.
Yeah. How are you supposed to manage something? It's just like, when you and I came on to this interview today, right? We both had to learn how to manage this software that we're using to record this episode. And it was a little bit different for both of us, right? You being our first guest of the show, which congratulations on being the first guest.
Yeah, love that.
First of many more to come, hopefully. But yeah, we had to figure out, right? We had issues where, okay, the sound wasn't working on my end, then the sound wasn't working on your end, and we had to find where the settings were. And it's, we took time to do that beforehand before we got in to do it. But I agree with you 100%. It's, if you have a tool that you're using, you need to educate yourself on it. And there's really no reason not to, because now with today's information, I'm sure they give you, training documentation that comes with any software or any hardware tool that you have. May not be the best, but it's there, right? Or, a lot of times too, you can find additional information on the internet, but we want to be careful with that, right?
The sincere truth is that a lot of times, especially when it comes to security, information does not come for you. In fact, they don't teach. I've had an instance where I got a software from this vendor who directed us to another vendor.
Of course.
And we went to this other vendor who only gave me a playbook. So a lot of times that does not come up. But one of the things I tell people is, one of the most important things to learn in a field like cybersecurity is to be a continuous learner. And that is why I encourage the leaders, those that are in the cybersecurity leadership space, because especially when we have some of our clients that are in the executive leadership space, they want to know. And even when they don't want to know, I insist that they know. So that when you are talking to a cybersecurity professional or whoever is under cybersecurity, you can talk knowledgeably.
Yes.
They're not going to bring you garbage in and then you start accepting everything they're going to give to you. Know the right questions to ask. Know the right things to say so that you can help even your own leadership team. Like I said, one of the things that we do is that every quarter we endeavor to have like some training programs for our clients, even when they don't ask for it. We make that a point of duty because new trends are coming up, new technologies are coming up. Your cybersecurity team needs to be updated. Your team on its own has to be cyber aware. You have to pull up a security conscious organization. Then at the same time, even those that are executives, I want you to be knowledgeable enough to ask the right questions.
And you know what? That makes sense because, and I think this is the whole thing that we're getting to, is that cybersecurity is not just for cybersecurity professionals, quote unquote.
No,
it's for everybody in the organization.
Exactly.
And everybody has an active role in cybersecurity. And whether you're an organization or an individual, right? An individual here, I'm working a podcast, I use a computer for that. I've got to take the steps, have the education and the knowledge to make sure that I protect my personal items as well. But especially in an organization, it's everybody's duty for cybersecurity. And I think that's what you're getting to with how I think this might be a good segue into what your company can do for other folks and how they make them cybersecurity aware.
The first thing I tell people, Nathan, is humans are the most vulnerable aspects. 95 people, do you know a lot of organizations will spend a lot of money, they will invest a lot of money to their cybersecurity and not pay attention to the humanitarian part of the role. So I emphasize on that a lot. And the reason I emphasize on that is because they are the most vulnerable point. So one of the things that we do in our organization is it's divided into two portions, like I said initially. The reason it's divided into two portions is because we run the leadership programs and we have come to discover that there are a lot of leaders, cybersecurity leaders, that don't want to be dependent on their organizations before they know, before they get, the information. Some of them just want to grow on their jobs, not necessarily because they are working for that organization. They want to know the new trends. They want to know the new technologies. They want to improve their skills, Some of them is because they want to be able to communicate with the people on the board. So those are some of the reasons why they come to us. Those are some of the leadership development programs that we run for the individuals. But when it comes to the organizations, we also do what is called the VCISO services. That means we run the virtual Chief Information Security Officer services. We do the transformation programs. I always tell my clients that I am not running leadership programs. I'm not running leadership development programs or VCISO services. We are doing what is called transformation programs. The goal is to be able to transform not just your career, but your leadership capabilities. At the same time, transform your organization so that you see yourself in a space where you have peace of mind. You know that you're not going to start speaking with law enforcement tomorrow because there was a breach. You know that you are compliant. A lot of them don't even know how they are going to work with the compliance aspect. And those are some of the areas where we help them with.
Right.
Some of them are not secure with their infrastructure. Some of them is so interesting. Some of them don't even have a cybersecurity strategy. So where are you? One of the first things we usually do, I make it a point of duty, irrespective of who I am working with. You might be the biggest organization in the US right now. You still have to go through what I call an assessment. I need to know where all your vulnerable points are. I need to know where all your problems are. So I'll put them through an assessment first and tell them how we can help them improve their infrastructure. For the cybersecurity leaders, I also run them through an assessment. The fact that you have been in the leadership space for 1 billion years does not mean you don't have some vulnerable points or you don't have some lapses. You still have some gaps that you need to fill. For most of them, I have discovered that the two problems that people at the top echelon usually have is aligning their objectives with security initiatives, the business objectives, the cybersecurity initiatives with their business goals. Most of them usually have that problem. Then number two, communicating with the board. When we're talking about communication, is essential. It's not just about communicating with your voice. It's not communicating with your mouth. You need to speak to them in a way that it will bring out the money.
Yeah, right. You do. I mean, if you've ever dealt with the executive suite of any company, you have to bring those dollars and cents and make it together and make it
Thank you.
Make it make sense.
You have to tell them how it's going to make them money for them to give you the money.
Exactly.
So those are some of the things that we try to make sure that we are helping our clients with. As much as possible, we do a lot of these programs. I remember we are starting a new course next month for the cybersecurity leaders. We have a program for next month. I think that's a 6-week program. We do that for the aspiring leaders. For those that have just tried to move into the cybersecurity space and are trying to find their footing, we usually run a 6-week program for them so that at least when they get to the office, they can be confident enough to speak to their boss and speak like a leader.
Nice. Yeah, that'll be nice. It's always nice when we can help, especially our professionals that may not be in the executive suite, or maybe they are, learn how to communicate better with the executive suite, make sure that, we're aligned, just like you said, aligning our cybersecurity goals with our company objectives. And I mean, from my work and from what I've seen, cybersecurity must always be aligned with our objectives, right?
If you want to retain your sanity, it should.
It should. It really should, because, in the end, it comes back to the things that we talked about already. Your trust, your reputation. These are things that you cannot afford to have damaged because it's so hard to repair.
Exactly.
And once that damage is done, it's unfortunate, but it's going to be hard to come back from that. So the best, again, we talk about it again, prevention is the best medicine for it.
Than cure.
But excellent. Anything else you want to talk about, Dorcas, that we're here?
Far, we've talked about everything. But the one thing that I also know that I think we didn't really discuss was the business email compromise. That is also a big deal right now.
Okay. Yeah, let's talk about that.
Business email compromise is usually, the interesting thing with business email compromise is the fact that they can send emails to anybody within the organization. It does not have to be somebody in the C-suite. Compared to whaling. Whaling is when they send information to somebody that is or like a celebrity or something. Is a targeted email. But in this case, business email compromise, and I've discovered that 99% of the times, we assume that email is emanating from outside the country. But the truth of the matter is 90% of the time it's actually emanating from within the country that you're located in. So it's just a way to get them to transfer money And one of the ways they are doing that right now is asking you to probably send cryptocurrencies, Bitcoins or Ethereum, usually Bitcoins. So if you are working in any corporate organization right now and you get an email it may not sound fishy. Your boss is asking you to send money to somebody. Make sure that you confirm. If you don't have access directly to that boss, get in touch with the leader that you have access to. If you are like working as an account officer or finance officer and they're asking you to transfer money, speak to your manager. Somebody will know somebody that can get somebody that will know somebody. They can always get to that access, because I know that is one of the problems that is going to come up a lot this year. Business email compromise, AI-powered attacks. Like I said initially when we started talking, AI-powered attacks are going to be a lot this year, because AI is a double-edged sword. It's going to do a lot of good, and at the same time, there are some people that are going to be using it for a lot of nefarious activities. Ransomware is going to be a lot this year. When there's geopolitical tension, then that is usually when ransomware comes in, because they need a lot of money to finance that. Another thing that I know is going to come up a lot this year is social engineering. So for your organizations, please pay attention to continuous education for your staff. Even the cleaning lady should be educated. Everybody on your team, as long as they work for your organization, they should be educated. And not just educated. One of the ways that you can sensitize them is give them the certifications. Give them certificates after they are finished, so that some of them will display it on their home. Some of them will display it beside their bed. Some of them may even go and put it on LinkedIn. But it's one of the things that will ensure that they are taking those classes seriously and they're paying attention to it. For small and mid organizations, I know most of their problems right now is webinars, workshops. They're having that problem. So it is extremely important this year to focus on a lot of educating. If you educate your staff this year, I can promise you it's going to be very hard to fall into any cybersecurity related threats or problems.
Yeah, that's one thing that, I've seen companies I've worked for that some of them have done a really great job in continuous education. Some have maybe not done as well of a job as they should have, but you're absolutely right. Anybody that works for the company, and if I would even recommend, if you can swing it, that if you have contractors or you contract work out, even have them go through the training. Make sure anybody that interacts with your business is trained on cybersecurity threats, figuring out what is a threat, what isn't. It's just going to be key, I think, for years to come at this point.
Nathan, my advice is anyone related to that organization, even when it comes to a third-party vendor that is going to have access to your network, anyone that is going to enter into your premises, they need to take that. The cleaning lady, the trash man, as long as they're getting access into that building, they're getting access to the network, they need to take the classes.
Absolutely. Totally agree with you. And I think, again, prevention is better than a cure. If we can prevent the thing from happening, let's do that and not worry about trying to fix it afterwards.
Certainly.
Dorcas, I want to thank you so much for joining us here on Just a Dude podcast. It's some great, amazing information. What are some ways, if our listeners want to get in touch with you or, maybe get some of your services that you offer, how can we get them to contact you?
All right. I'm the managing advisor for Thrive and Secure. Thrive and Secure is a cybersecurity transformation consulting outfit. So the way I will advise that you actually reach out to us is thriveandsecure.com. Thriveandsecure.com. You can also check me out on any of my social media pages. Just look for Dorcas Akintade, my Facebook page, my LinkedIn page. I also have an Instagram page. But it's better for you to come to either Facebook or LinkedIn because I'm usually more active on those pages. But the truth is, it's good for you to visit the website because that way you can also download some of our, I think they are called documents, maybe some of these things that can help you. For those of you that want to be cybersecurity leaders, we have the ebook. We have sometimes you can see some of our free webinars or even some of the paid ones. It's easy for you to see whatever we're doing. It's easy for you to get some of our materials like the white paper for the organization. If you go to the website, you can get it from there. If you go to the website, you can download the ebook. If you go to the website, you can also see the webinar that for the future, I think it's called the Future for Cybersecurity. Yeah, the Future Cybersecurity Leader. We have that as well, but it's important as an organization that you just visit our website. You can even call for a free initial assessment. We can help you to do a free initial assessment. Just look us up on our website and book a free initial assessment. That way we can tell you whatever your organization needs in order to be able to move to the next level and be able to unlock new growth opportunities in your organization.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Dorcas. I want to thank you again for being with us, giving us so much information for our listeners. I think this is going to help anybody that has, access to a digital life, which I think we all do at this point. If you don't, I don't know where you've been, but I want to thank you. Your website is going to be posted on this in our description. It's also, if you go to our website, justadudepodcast.com, and you look at our show guests, Dorcas information is there. You can see her beautiful profile picture, learn about her, and all of her links are there as well. So again, I want to thank you for joining us. I want to thank all of the listeners for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed this. If you have any comments or questions, please feel free to drop us a comment or email us. And we look forward to bringing you more content like this. So stay interested, keep learning, and just be yourselves. Again, I'm Nathan from Just a Dude Podcast, and thanks for joining us today.